Well, brothers, I hope y'all ready for church today. We're going to teach you some more things about the anatomy of a black man, and specifically about your penis and why God made it the way it is. Why your penis is bigger than every other man's on earth. And like it said, with great power comes great responsibility. All right. You see on the screen a picture of Moses. And what does he have in his hand? A rod. And most of you probably already know the story of Moses. And the first thing that God gave him was this staff or this rod. And this has a lot of spiritual significance that we're going to get into. And later on, during Moses is bringing the Exodus, bringing the children of Israel out of slavery, which we're in slavery now, and I'm going to get to that and tie it all together to this modern age. The next thing that God gave to Moses was 2 tablets of stone. And on these 2 tablets of stone, he wrote the law. Okay. The law was written on 2 tablets of stone. And these have a lot of significance to who we are, brothers, and why you can't just stick your rod in any and every woman. Why there's rules to this thing in order for us to get free. I'm going to read this scripture to you, all right? This is Leviticus chapter 21 and verse 17. Basically, in this verse, God is explaining to Moses and Aaron that there's certain criteria that holy men have to have in order to come before him. All right? Leviticus 21 and 20 and 18. I'm going to start at 17. Speak unto Aaron, saying, whosoever he be of thy seed in their generations that hath any blemish, let him not approach to offer the bread of his God. So God is looking for men without blemishes, right? And these blemishes can be physical, but it's really talking about a spiritual blemish, most importantly. All right? It's not talking about if you got a cut or a scratch, but if a man has major issues with him, he has to be healed and whole before he can minister before the people. All right? For whatsoever man he be that hath a blemish, he shall not approach. A blind man or a lame, or he that has a flat nose. The fake Jews has flat noses. They can never approach before the Most High God. Keep that in mind. Why would he say a flat nose? Or anything superfluous. Or a man that is broken-footed or brokenhanded. But here's the verse that I want to get to. Or a crookbackt, or a dwarf, like a little person, or that hath a blemish in his eye. And this is talking about the third eye, the mind's eye, which we're going to get into. Or be scurvy or scabbed, or hath his stones broken. Has his stones broken. Do you think that means that if a man has a few pebbles in his pockets and one of them breaks in half, that he can't minister? Or are these stones talking about something else? Exactly. Your balls. So if your balls are broken, you can't stand before God. So black men, you got to have balls or stones. But Moses received 2 stones, and he also received a rod. Because that rod and those 2 stones, I'm going to say it represents the sexual organs of God, spiritually. See, I'm going to tell you what these pastors never told you, because your pastors are whoremongers, and your churches are filled with sluts. So now, why all these crybabies complaining when you have somebody showing you the true word of God? A lot of people say, oh, yeah, church is this and that, which it surely is. But why are y'all fighting against the word now that y'all hearing it in its pure form? You should have nothing to complain about now. Now you're going to find out the truth by Hashem Yehoshua. So this rod here that God gave Moses was accompanied by 2 stones. And this rod, black man, represents your penis and your testicles. These are the 3 witnesses that God needs in order to spread his seed on the earth. By 2 or 3 witnesses shall every matter be established. So we have the rod or the staff, which represents Yehoshua, because he's going to rule all these Edomites and all these nations with a rod of iron. He's that rod. He's going to break the nations in pieces. And so will you, black man. You're going to break these nations and these women back down in place with your rod. It may seem far-fetched now, but the day is going to come when these sisters are going to be crawling at your feet. That's part of their repentance. And you're going to have to break them with your rod. You're going to have to tame these women like they tame wild horses. You got to beat them with the rod. That's your penis, brothers. That's why yours is longer and stronger than every other man on earth, and why they hate us and why they have penis envy. What testifies of Yehoshua is the law and the prophets. Those are the 2 witnesses that testify of our king who has the scepter. That rod is a scepter with which a king rules, and you have a scepter between your feet, wherewith you should rule, but you haven't been using it right. So we have 2 tables of stone. Just like it said, a man has to have stones. He can't have his stones crushed or not have stones at all to come before God. So you have the laws of the Old Testament and the prophets of the Old Testament, which give witness to the rod in between them, which is Yehoshua. That's built into your anatomy, brothers. This is why you can't just take your rod and stick it anywhere you want to. If you ever want to get out of this situation that we're in. All right? Now, what did Moses do with that rod? You guessed it. Moses had a showdown with Pharaoh and his magicians. And Moses took that rod and he turned it into a snake. Why a snake, you might ask? Your penis is somewhat shaped like a snake. And believe it or not, if you take a snake's mouth and open it wide, If you look at the roof of that snake's mouth, it looks exactly like a woman's vagina. So, why did he turn his rod into a snake? Because it was with Adam's rod, or his penis, that sin came into the world. When he laid with his adulterous wife, Eve. Just like today, most of our women are sluts and whores, adulterers, unfaithful, rebellious, stiff-necked, loud, obnoxious, traitorous. That's basically what Eve did to Adam. And she committed adultery with who? The devil, Satan. He came to her as a handsome young Prince Charming. She left Adam in the second. But see, the thing is that Adam sinned. He became a mangina for her. And once she committed adultery, he should have never stuck his rod back inside of her. When he did, he allowed Satan to creep inside of his rod. This is very important for y'all to understand, brothers. I'm giving you the real. This is the spirit of truth. So this rod represents your penis and how if you don't use it right, sin can creep in through this. Satan is always trying to get us through our lust or our loins. And as a result of that, Yehoshua, the Messiah, he became a form of this because this rod also represents him, but he became sin for us so that we can be forgiven. So if he became sin for us and became in our place this snake, which our rod had become cursed, he took that curse on himself so that we can be free. So why would we then go and take this same rod and defile it with unworthy, adulterous whores all over again? Edomites and the such. You see what that reprobate Tito has been doing with this whore. An Edomite whore at that, which is the seed of Satan. And he sticks his rod in that and then tries to convince other brothers to do the same with an unworthy woman. Alright? So what happens after that? The big showdown. Here you have Moses, who we all know is a black man. And this is Pharaoh and Pharaoh's magicians here. Moses takes his rod becomes what? A serpent, a snake. But see, the thing about Moses' rod is that it swallowed Pharaoh's rod, his snakes. So what was God showing you, brothers? Spiritually, do I have to say it? Do I have to spell it out for y'all? Spiritually, they were showing who has the bigger who has the biggest cock. Moses pulls his out. Pharaoh pulls his out. But whose was bigger? Who swallowed the other? See, Egypt was a matriarchy. Egypt worships the vagina, Isis and all that other nonsense. They worship the womb. So their snakes or their rods were weak. They can't stand up before the man with the rod of iron. So Moses' rod destroys their rod. Symbolically meaning not just a rod or a penis, but what comes out of it is seed. children. So God's children will devour and kill and destroy Satan's children. And that's the ultimate message. Don't get caught up in just the flesh or the physical aspect of a penis or a rod and whose is bigger and so forth. Yes, in the physical, yes, we do have bigger penises. But it's a spiritual significance, and it has to do with God's seed versus Satan's seed. So, why would you now take your rod and then go and lay with Satan's seed? You're defeating the purpose. Where God is making a separation to set us free again, you're now taking that which God has holy and you're giving it right back into the hands of this pagan matriarchy, which has us in bondage, which puts us in slavery. When we can't control our rod, it puts us in jail. Don't you see the laws of this land? They're set up, black men, to put you in jail for how you conduct yourself with your penis. And this is why you have to understand not just the laws of this filthy land, but the laws of God. Because knowing the laws of God can set you free spiritually from the laws of this land that bind you through your penis. And I'll have to explain that and give y'all some testimony on that at some point. All right. So, he shows his rod, Moses' rod, which is the staff of Yehoshua, kills Satan. Again, Pharaoh is a child of Satan. Moses is the child of Yehovah. And we see that the child of Yehovah has the bigger penis, or the bigger and stronger rod that Pharaoh can't stand against. Just like the Edomites can't stand against us today. So, what happens next? Since we're talking about rods and so forth, I just want to run this by you real quick. Moses takes that same rod and he turns the waters of Egypt into what? Blood. He turns their waters into blood. And nothing can live in those waters. Everything in those waters dies. So we see where Moses stands is regular water, but around him is blood, which represents death, uncleanness, a menstruous woman. So God is trying to separate and clean us up, but if we take on the ways of Edomites, he's turning their waters into blood. Their rivers are defiled or unclean. And what comes out of a woman's vagina but waters? Blood or water comes out. Don't get all excited. But if you look here, this is the vagina. There's only two things that comes out of the vagina. It's either going to be blood or water. A menstruous woman or unclean woman will have blood coming out, representative of her sins or adultery or the first sin of Eve, which is why all women have that affliction of the period, of the menstrual cycle. It's to inherit Eve's curse. And you, black man or men, let's see. Let me show you something. Here is your rod and the two stones. Your affliction, brothers, was because that Adam got weak for sex, you become weak for sex. When a man has sex and he ejaculates, what happens to his rod? It becomes weak. It gets soft. Because you, black men, from our father Adam, he became soft for vagina, where he should have remained firm like a rod of iron in the face of the devil, in the face of Eve, adulterous Eve. He should have kept that rod like iron, and he should have not fallen for her. But now because he did, and we see the two stones here, 1, 2, the law, the prophets, and Moses' rod, or the scepter, or the rulership, or the king, or Yehoshua. Because Adam now became sexually weak, that is why brothers become sexually weak. And some of you are still sexually weak to this day with no sexual discipline. So unless a man works at keeping his sexuality strong, which there are many things a man can do to keep himself virile, but he has to work. That was Adam's curse. He had to work the earth. He now had to work by the sweat of his brow. So men, black men, we have to work hard for everything that we obtain. And anything worthwhile, you have to work for it as a man. Women, on the other hand, many of them do not have to work as hard to obtain things. It is more expected of the man to work hard because that's our punishment. Because Yehoshua came and took on our sin, so now we have to pay him back by service or working or paying back what he has done for us. That is why we have to work, men. That's why it will never change. A man will always be a patriarch, and he will always have to be responsible for working and ultimately providing. Well, a woman's consequences were different. But because Adam became weak and Yehoshua had to pay our debts off, now we have to work to pay off our debt back to him. And we cannot become sexually weak for a vagina or a woman, no matter how she looks, no matter how good the sex is. That's what caused us to fall in the beginning. So, man has to learn how to strengthen his penis. There are many exercises you can do. There are many supplements you can take. There are many foods you can eat to keep yourself strong so that you can work hard. But these two stones are supposed to give testimony to this rod. From this rod, from these two stones, the law and the prophets, the rod is lifted up. And what do I mean by lifted up? Your penis gets erect. Your rod is lifted up, brothers. So when God's rod is lifted up, it has a certain job to do. And what's that job? To split the waters. To split that vagina. Do you get it now? Moses lifted up that rod when the people were in trouble and the water split in half. And what does that mean? That means that God was about to give birth to his people. And to give birth, you have to have sexual intercourse. And then through that sexual intercourse, eventually the woman goes into labor or hard times or tribulation. Trouble, pain, discomfort. That's how she gives birth. So Moses had to take his rod and lift it up and split the waters. Black men, that's what you do with your waters. That's how, with your rod. And that's what you're going to have to do to these women. But you notice this water? What do you notice about this water versus the picture of the last water that I showed you? This water is clean. The other waters were full of blood. You can't take your rod and dip it in bloody waters and expect an exodus to come out. You have to split clean, pure water. That's why you have to stay away from whores. Let's get it. Exodus 14:16. You're going to learn. You're going to have church today. Exodus 14:15. I'll start at 14 actually. I'll start at 13. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh, the Yeshua of Yahweh. Salvation is Yeshua, which he will show you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. Yahweh shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And Yahweh said unto Moses, this is verse 15, and Yahweh said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward. So God is telling them, don't be afraid. You're going to go forward. When a woman is giving birth, a lot of times she's afraid. Or when a woman is going to lose her virginity, a lot of times she's afraid. So Moses is about to break that water open, and something's going to come out on the other side. Exodus 14:16. But lift thou up thy rod. Lift up your rod. Lift up your rod. The rod is lifted up. And stretch out thy hand over the sea. The waters come from here, and sometimes you got to stretch your hand out and open it up. You know, and split that water open and then lift your rod inside, brothers. And divide it. Divide it. Split that water open, and the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. What does that mean? That means that first he's going to lift that rod up, take his hand and spread it open, then go up inside of her raw. And the children of Israel, or the seed, will come through here and come out on the other side, giving birth at the same time. You see how God has given us a deliverance? He wants to give birth to his people again, but we need to do it with clean water, not bloody waters. Not Edomite women, not whores, not pornography. All those things pour blood in this water. And this water must remain clean for us to go through it as a people. We cannot have this bloody waters and expect an exodus to come through this. The exodus comes through the pure and the clean water, brothers. So that seed or the people come through dry ground because he made Adam out of the ground, and they give birth to the nation of Israel on the other side, ejaculating through the middle of the waters. So the question is, what are you going to do with your rod and those two stones you got? Some of y'all act like y'all ain't got no stones. Y'all emotional and bitch made. But see, these red pills are going to get you where you need to be, brothers. I love you. And I'm telling you so we can all man up. I had to man up myself and make sure I have my stones in my pocket. And I'm telling you so you can have your stones and your rod can be lifted up. That's all for today.